newspapers, history, and also work with Keanu and Dexter on what we do. So I'm going to let my son and Dexter introduce themselves.
Aloha nui mai kako. Avo hili na isa Dudoit. I'm Kauʻi's son. I'm going to be a sophomore next year at Pu'uhuluhulu or Manoa in Hawaiian language and political science. And I was dragged in to talk about whatever my mom wants to talk about.
Aloha mai kako. I'm Dexter Ke'eamuku Ka'iyama. I'm an attorney by profession, but over the last 10 years I have really been arguing in the courts about the restoration of the Hawaiian Kingdom. That's what I do, and that's been part of my national consciousness, and I think that's probably part of our topic today.
So because I'm kind of the fire starter on this conversation. So my son Hili Na'i just participated in the University of Hawaii at Manoa Native Hawaiian Student Services does this Hawaiian Youth Abroad program. Are you familiar with that? So they each get assigned someone, right? Because in the Hawaiian Kingdom, Kalakaua them, they sent individuals off to be educated in all over Europe and America as well, right? To make them be equal and as smart as anybody else in the world, so that they can come back home and serve their country. So he just left, just returned from 2 weeks in London and Great Britain and Italy, right? And so the whole time that he's there, he is living and breathing the national consciousness of our people, of our country. He's seeing the actual evidence of our country living and breathing away, right? Which is hard sometimes to see while we're at home here, yeah? So he returns from the Mauna. He returns from... I've been returning to the Mauna every day. But he returns home and immediately wanted to come up. Yeah? And so he came up, he jumped into discussions and workshops that were being held. And each time he'd come back to me and he'd say, Mom, we got to start having that national consciousness conversation. We got to start having that be part of the discussion. Yeah, because what's happening here is huge and monumental, but we can't let it remain just here. Yeah, it has to sit deeply into us, and so we all have at least a conversation of what the bigger picture is. Yeah. Another data point that's important to know is that I gave birth to him in 2000. In 2000, Keanu, myself, and our team were preparing our case to go to the World Court and represent the Hawaiian Kingdom in the Permanent Court of Arbitration. He's born into our kingdom. I raised him as a Hawaiian subject. His total consciousness and reality has been of a Hawaiian subject. And then he goes to University of Hawaii at Manoa, and he hears bits and pieces and fragments of it, but he doesn't, you know, it's just, and he's having this conflict, yeah? So he kept telling me, Mom, you gotta do it, Mom, you gotta do it, Mom, you gotta do it. And then yesterday, while I was talking to Dexter, I said, hey, Dex, you wanna do a talk with me on national consciousness? I'm gonna pull him in. I called Kauʻi last night, he said, I'm game. So we're all doing this, and he is the impetus. But he's the impetus for this conversation. But he represents this generation, right? And that somehow our generation, they can jump off our backs if we all grab this. Because our generation, Dex and I were just talking about it, there's people like us in our generation, but there's more of them who are the stop at the gate people, right? They control. Our generations now are in positions of leadership and power. And because they don't embrace it, know it, understand it, they are on the other side of us in most of the cases, yeah? So our generation needs to embrace this and make this okay for this generation to fly past us. Yeah, so that's what this is meant to be, a conversation. We're not talking at you, we're going to talk with you. Yeah, it's to start that discussion on what national consciousness means. Yeah? Okay.
Okay.
One of you go.
I thought we was going to start.
Oh yeah, then we go to Nut. Right, Nut, you go.
Okay. So as my mom just said, yeah, me and a few of my friends, like Kamana, the one who previously taught the previous class, we just came back from Europe, and throughout our 2-week trip, every archive we visited, every kind of place of higher learning we visited, there were little traces of the Hawaiian Kingdom that many of us weren't, aware of. So the first place we went to was the Pew Archives, the National Archives of Britain, and there lies the Anglo-French Proclamation in 1843. I don't think anybody over here can hear. Oh, follow mine.
My generation.
You gotta talk louder. They'll do it.
Okay. So while we were in Europe, one of the first places we visited was the Pew National Museum in Great Britain, and there we found. Well, we knew it was there, but it was astonishing for our group to see the Anglo-French Proclamation, which Great Britain, Belgium, and France, it was the first acknowledgement of our independence in 1843. So that was one of the first traces we got, and alongside those we had evidence of Lili Kulani's protests against the overthrow and annexation. We had many things which are traces of our nation that don't necessarily exist here in Hawaii and aren't well known here in Hawaii. So as we were leaving Britain, 5 days after that, we went to the College of Heraldry, and that is where Timoteo Halilio, delegates for security, sovereignty, he created the first draft of the Commission. And they were the first people to see, probably the first Hawaiians in 120 years, to see the first draft of the Constitution.
But I said, shh, don't tell her. Representatives of the Hawaiian Kingdom in Italy, in Torino and in Napoli. So, what we learned here, which was a great takeaway from my whole group, was that the Hawaiian Kingdom existed and it was known and it was well established internationally. It's just here at home we have to kind of remember that. And if some of us, we haven't been taught it, so we have to learn it. So I guess that's what I have to say.
All right, so my background is, I would say about nearly 10 years ago, I met with Keanu, Dr. Sai, and we talked about bringing this matter and this education into the courts and challenging their jurisdiction. Now, I had always been a follower of Keanu, and I understood and I actually agreed with the premise that we were under occupation. I just always asked Keanu, well, how do we bring it forward? How do we challenge the system? And about 10 years ago, he kind of said, okay, this is how we can possibly do it. And it was really a matter of filing a motion and arguing the jurisdiction of the courts, saying that they had no authority. Now what we did, of course, we provided historical fact, we provided law, so we actually provided undisputed proof that the Hawaiian Kingdom continued to exist as a subject of international law. We also, by doing it in the courtroom, created an atmosphere where it was clear they could provide no evidence to the contrary. So not only did we provide proof, they could provide none whatsoever. Oftentimes, in fact, many of them would just be silent on the issue and would rely on the courts to continue the prolonged occupation. And in fact, I have one case where a judge basically said, Mr. Kayama, I can't do this because if I did this, I'd be committing political suicide. It would be the atomic bomb for our judiciary. Everything evaporates. My response to the judge at that time was, Your Honor, I understand the consideration of the consequences of his decision, but the consideration of its consequences is beyond his authority as the court. What he has to do is rule on the facts and the law and make that determination. Let higher ups determine the consequences. As you know, and that was part of my national consciousness, was bringing this information to the courts. And by doing so, I did understand that it would get out somewhat to the public. I can tell you that my demeanor in the courtroom was pretty, I like to think I've always been a humble guy, but it was a humble presentation to the court because I understood that the information itself was profound, very profound, and actually would cause a lot of people to be upset about it. So there was no need for me to go in there with any kind of attitude or eha. I really was just providing the information to the court and appealing to their sense of responsibility and sensibility. Of course, it didn't work. Not yet, anyway.
Justice. I mean, there's
Yes.
that.
But in the furtherance of that, on behalf of some of the clients, I was able to file complaints with the International Criminal Court, saying that some of what the plaintiffs had done and the court had been complicit in was violation of international law, so that they could be held personally responsible. Now, I did it knowing that there's a possibility no action would take place because of the political nature of what's happening here. That other countries or other courts might also be somewhat reluctant to take actions that they should take because of their relationships politically with the United States. Again, it is just part of my way of expressing my national consciousness and hoping that this information becomes more widespread disseminated, more widely adopted. And once it becomes adopted, as I think I heard an adage saying, once you know the truth, it's difficult not to act upon that truth. And so my idea is to spread the truth, hoping that everyone else continues to act upon that truth.
Right. So we are conscious of our nationality and our nation. This doesn't have to be the only example. It is just our example. But it can, national consciousness can live. If you're a teacher, you are in a position of power to encourage national consciousness. And that's simply, and you don't have to wave flags and yell I'm Kanaka Maoli and all that. All you have to do is know and teach the history. And whether you do that through song, chant, art, hanakiaka, whatever the medium is, national consciousness can be done by every single one of us in all different levels and by all different means. Aloha, thanks for joining us.
Just perfect to talk about our national
What are you? We're just all talking about national
I
consciousness.
came in right as he said teacher.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect timing. Go ahead and say what is national consciousness? Why is that important? What do you do? Not that we all don't know a little bit about that.
So what exactly is the question?
How do you live your national consciousness? How do you live it in your everyday life? How do you share it? How do you teach it? How does it live in you?
Maybe if I can start you.
Yeah, go.
I think this O'ole TMT is a great expression of our national consciousness.
Yes.
No, I thought there's going to be more than that.
Well, just to give you, so I talked about why we started this, about them going Hawaiian Youth Abroad, how they made contact and saw the Hawaiian Kingdom living and breathing a national consciousness was a part of their 2-week trip. And then he comes back here, he goes to Ichi Manoa, it's fragmented, it's not deep, it's not. And so we're all just talking about the way that we express our national consciousness.
I mean, so one approach or one perspective I have on is Ohana is very important. Ohana is really important. I know a lot of people eat turkey the same day every single year for Thanksgiving, and they don't give a crap about Thanksgiving, but they do enjoy getting together with their Ohana. They do enjoy seeing their cousins, for that one day a year, or grandma or auntie or whatever it is. So for me, and I started this in the preschools when I was teaching at Punana, was to celebrate again our national holidays. Yeah, specifically La Ku'oko'a and La Ho'iho'i'ea. Because over time, you'll develop a connection to that mana'o and to that day. But ultimately, it comes through Ohana. I know a lot of people who know the history of Thanksgiving and know that it's dirty, it's bloody. We know all of that, but we continue to eat the turkey because that's what the family does. Because again, this day has meaning to me because for the last 17 years, or the last 27 years, or the last 80 years, I have gathered with my ohana on this day. So I look at La Ku'oko'a as the perfect opportunity to begin this reawakening of national consciousness because we're getting together around that time anyway. In fact, this year, La Ku'oko'a falls on Thanksgiving. Right? So throw the turkey away, put the high Hawaii back up, and because for us, it might be hard because we have so much baggage, right? We have so much baggage that we're carrying. But I think about the keiki. They don't. they don't know anything. They don't know better, right? They're only gonna know what we teach them and what we force them to know and what we force them to feel. So if we start just flipping the reasoning behind why we get together, why we partake in me'ai or whatever it is, for us, we may never reach that point where it becomes real. But to that keiki, by the time they're 7 years old, it's la ku'oko'a all day, every day. That's life. And they may not realize in that moment what that's becoming, but the same goes for Thanksgiving, the same goes for Christmas, the same goes for Halloween. How does a 3-year-old love Halloween? Like they probably don't remember their experiences from the day that they were 1 and that they were 2, but by the time they're 3, they have all these ideas of what they want to be. Same thing with Christmas. They know about the stocking, they know about the big white guy with the beard and the red clothes. They know all of those things because we put them in those positions. So I look at ohana as and especially for those, I mean, for me, I'm a new makua now. My keiki just made 6.5 months, and he's gonna have his first, he had his first la ho'iho'i over here. He's gonna have his first la ku'oko'a in a few months, and we're gonna do that every single year. And by the time he's 5, that's all he's gonna know. And the turkey is gonna sound really, really weird to him, and he's gonna wonder why, how. And as time goes on, but the Hawaiian flag's never gonna be a question. Timotel's never gonna be a question, because we'll get those things to them at a young age. So to me, it's almost like it's very political, but it's not political. It's just about what do we gather on? Why do we get together? Are we getting together because of the pilgrims and all the pilikia that they created? Or are we getting together because of this amazing mo'olelo of someone who gave his life, not just for the people of that time, but for us today and the multiple generations that are still yet to come? And so it's about making a commitment. And again, I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared for this, so I'm still kind of the kind, but with ohana, that's the easiest way to change things. And again, for our kupuna and for us who are adults already, we might not ever get there, but that's no reason for us to stop our keiki from getting there, because it's super attainable. It's really the easiest thing to do. It's just a matter of making a decision to prioritize those things and to value those things in our lives so that they can value those things as well. But again, once they get ma'a to the turkey, it's hard, because you develop all of your memories and all of those good times around that, and it's hard to give up. I've heard people say, Thanksgiving is my least favorite holiday now, but they still go, right? They'll still coordinate it. And so just bringing awareness to, we come from, like, in my opinion, the greatest people in the world. And yes, I'm biased, I come from them, but we come from the greatest people in the world. And you want to debate me, right on, go ahead, but you're not going to change my mind, right? And so when our keiki hear those mo'olelo, and it's not about having to be right, it's just about being allowed to feel that way. And as our keiki learn these things, and they get older, and they see how things are nowadays, I believe it's easy. It's going to be really, really easy for them to make the connection and to disconnect from all of these things that we've been kama'a to. And until we get to that point, all of our goals and all of our aspirations, they're not attainable until we start making these things normal in our ohana. You can't make it normal in the community until it's normal in your ohana. You can't make it normal in the lahui until it's normal in your community. You can't make it normal in the world until it's normal in your lahui. So all of these steps, in my opinion, start with keiki. And I've seen this happen at preschools. You slap the picture of Lauren Thurston in front of them and they go nuts. They go crazy. Boo! Ale mai kai oia! Ale mai kai oia! And I never told them to say that, but I told them the mo'olelo. I told them what happened to Lili'u and who did it, and they make that determination on their own. Slapped in the picture of Timotel, and they start chanting Timotel, Timotel, hi Hawaii, waving all over the place. And if we can just continue to nurture that, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. But it's about, in my opinion, starting just like anything else, whether you're talking language, whatever it is, starting from a young age, but also not allowing that to hamper you and to not allow you to start later, right? The best time to plant a tree was yesterday. That doesn't mean we're not going to do it today. And so the same thing with the language, same thing with national consciousness. The best time to start was 100 years ago. But the next best time is right now. So that's where I'm at for now.
So I do know for my generation, a number of us, of course, like she said, as positions of authority, we're entrenched in the system, right? And we find it difficult to give up. I hear oftentimes people express the concern that, how are we going to survive? Where's our money coming from? And so, for example, my wife's a professor at the University of Hawaii, and she teaches accounting. So what she does is she now has developed a class teaching Hawaiian economics. Because we have a lot of smart Kanaka and non-Kanaka who have solutions. And so what we need to do is encourage our people to find our own economic solutions and to see what it looks like. Instead of worrying about what we'll lose, is to dream about, in fact, what we'll gain by, again, reestablishing our national consciousness. My son also is an accountant, so I'm telling him that part of his kuleana is to figure out how we have our, to figure out how we determine our financial economy. I told, when speaking at a class at Kamehameha Schools, I said, look, close your eyes for a second. Consider the Hawaiian Islands, from the Northwest Hawaiian Islands to Hawaii Island here. Consider the territorial, exclusive territorial zone of 200 miles around those islands. Those all are part of the Hawaiian Kingdom. The resources alone over there should be enough to feed us as a people, if we think about it. So if we think about it, we need not be afraid of regaining our independence. In fact, I firmly believe that we will do just fine once we regain our independence. You talk about eliminating, for example, the Jones Act, which forces foreign countries to ship their products to the United States first before coming here, and we have to pay the extra tariff for that. You eliminate that and you deal directly with foreign countries, we eliminate that tariff. We make trade much easier, okay? I heard them say that off the coast of the Big Island, they have these minerals that are still part of the Hawaiian territory that they can use to build airplanes. Those are our minerals. Those are our minerals that we can build airplanes, or if anything, have trade with other countries. So what we need, I do know we have a lot of smart Kanaka and non-Kanaka that are willing to do the work. We just need to have that vision and to help us in some way achieve that vision. So we're getting there. So aloha.
I would say that if anything is lacking, it's not information and it's not information. It's vision. This is giving a vision of how will it work. How could it possibly work? Well, we'll agree to make it work. We'll commit to make it work. If we can imagine an independent Hawaii, independent in the sense that we can take care of ourselves and interact with the world in a groovy way. Energy-wise, I say groovy, that's an old word.
I like it, groovy.
Oh, boy, out in my brain. So, energy-wise, I can, with a pencil, paint solar panels over this island, Maui, etc. And all of a sudden, we're not sucking gas from Conoco and Exxon. Energy independence. Wow, that's a great form of wealth. When you try imagine your own energy bill right now, put that into the future. People having a vision of a beautiful, powerful, erect, happening future in Hawaii. Energy independence, agricultural independence. All the technology is there. All the smart people are here already. It's linking the vision and painting the picture in art and whatever for people to just see. Not what I gotta get up, but what can I possibly gain? What can the level, what can they gain if we, in our generation, take those risks? Just realize how beautiful and powerful the truth is, and just live with the rocks. Live on the rocks if you got to. It's still better living here than anywhere in Hawaii right now, as far as I'm concerned. I'd rather be here because the practice of Pu'uhuluhulu, of bringing our lives into a rhythm of loving each other, loving the Aina, developing a natural philosophy that makes sense rather than this Western conquest trip, which, hey, I was born into it like the rest.
That's one of the things that we learn in this movement right here. Is it's only been 3 weeks, but within 3 weeks, many of us have given up. All those things are outside of here, and we don't even realize it. We're not even thinking about it. We have shelter, we have food, we have each other, and we have Aina. And that's about all we have. And I don't hear anybody here complaining. That's all we need.
But it's
No.
also been like the great equalizer. You come here, and whatever you are outside, here everybody's equal. Here everybody comes just as kanaka, and we all just help do whatever. I think that's the most beautiful thing in seeing this, because you don't see this outside of here. Outside, everybody got their hoity-toity levels and stuff. So that's an amazing thing that's happening here.
It's also, actually, if I may, it's consistent with the truth. Everybody is the same. The charade that we go back to project and energize every time we go back into the system, it takes a lot of our energy to just keep that thing that we don't really, really care about. We're just afraid of being left behind. And the fact is, you never get left behind. I gave up most of that stuff a long time ago.
For us and moving forward, lovely wife, does forgiveness come into play at all? As us, as our national consciousness, does forgiveness come into play for us as Hawaiians at all?
In what sense? Explain that.
Yeah, what do you mean?
So I have this belief that as we live in this unforgiveness, we stay there in that place, and we're not really able to grow as much as we could if we forgive. If we forgive, we can forgive the hurts. We get to move past that and not live in the hurts anymore. We get to move into the future. So is forgiveness part of our national, like I don't hear forgiveness being spoken that much, and I understand why. My belief is as we don't speak about that forgiveness, we stay there. We can't truly bring our consciousness out of that because we're staying in this hurt, we're living in this hurt. We walk around, we carry it around with us all day long, all the time. Can we ever really say that we've moved away from that and we're still not living in that time of ourselves, our own consciousness as Kanaka Maoli, if we're not forgiving?
I would think that by the actions, most especially of what's going on here in the last 3 weeks, but in a lot of actions that you see around, I think forgiveness is necessary, but never forget. You can never forget,
For sure.
because in forgetting, then we run the risk of doing it all again.
Right. But
right?
forgiveness is not
I
forgetting.
think forgiveness, and there's levels, right? It's not like you can get down and kiss their and just say, I forgive you for all you've done. No, forgiveness happens mutually. Yeah, when we've all accepted, we have to accept what's happened. It's just a part. It's just a reality. And I think it's in each individual who holds the anger in it.
Right.
But I found that once you get informed about it, once you understand the intricate detail of the steps that took place, the agency that our ali'i and the Hawaiian Patriots took, you kind of get a settling feeling, and you're not angry anymore. You understand the progression and how it moved. You can be upset, but not pissed off. I think it's a natural part of this movement is forgiveness, and nobody's talking about it. But I think it's happening. I see it happening without us actually verbalizing it that we forgive.
Yes,
But we do. We understand. I think we can understand, and we can move forward to a solution.
My forgiveness doesn't depend upon the other person. I can forgive.
Yeah.
And my forgiveness doesn't mean that I am surrendering anything to you or I'm giving up my sense of my identity.
Right.
I can still be strong and be myself and forgive you, and still not allow, and still say to you what happened was wrong, and I don't stand for it to continue anymore.
Right.
But I forgive you. I forgive that.
Right.
And at the same time, so that was my one, because as a consciousness, I don't see that so much. That we as a people are forgiving, but still standing strong and still being able to be strong. Because forgiveness doesn't mean we're weak.
Yeah,
It actually
Exactly.
means we're strong.
Exactly.
I think one reason why it's not heard so much is that everybody's been affected differently. Like there are some similarities in how we've been affected, but others have been affected more than others too, depending on who your kupuna married or didn't marry, and how much keiki they had or didn't have, and where you lived and didn't live. I mean, so for like it'd be hard for me to say, you know, we gotta forgive, because it's gonna. I even if I believe it, that's gonna happen with every individual on their own time, because we've been. I mean, maybe one individual has been put in a position where they've been able to move on from it, and they're not still being held down by the historical things that have taken place in the past. Again, a lot of times based on who your kupuna was or who your kupuna married or didn't marry. And then there's others who continue to suffer from the very same things that their kupuna suffered from 100 years ago. And so for one individual who's not and has been able to move forward in this time to tell someone else who hasn't, that'd be a hard message for me to deliver.
That causes a separation between the two, though. They're separate. Well, my belief in that is, if their hearts are not the same, they cannot both really carry on the same kind of, you know, their cunning is going to be different. The way that they're moving and all of that are going to be different, because what I see, and my own experience, and also what I see is people that maybe have forgiven, that have forgiven, and those who still have that hurt, they tend to clash with each other, because this hurt causes this person to not understand this forgiveness, and sometimes this forgiveness that they might have may prevent this person from being empathetic to what this, like what you're saying, this person's own personal experience, their own personal trauma, their own personal abuse of what happened. So as we walk around carrying our own individual stories, sometimes what I experience is those individual stories cause me to be disconnected from you. I'm not able to connect to you because your story is different from mine, and you walk your story different than I do. And so I see my experience is a lot of people aren't validating each other's experiences and their own life and what they're moving through, because, you forgive these people. How can we forgive these people? You know, because their own hurt prevents them from accepting this person's forgiveness.
You know, I think that forgiveness, I mean, it's such a, because it means a different thing to everybody. How we do that, how we take that in, and how we bring it back. But in the course of learning my own history, my own family's history, and roles as time went through, as we moved into the territory, we get into the 1900s, 1910s, 1920s, and I see my own great-grandparents are working for the territory. They're part of the system that came and took ours, right? And at the points that I find them, I'm angry. I'm angry with them. I'm angry for how can they do that, right? But it's easy to sit back here in this time and judge what they were dealing with in that time, yeah? So I had to come to a place where I had to put myself in their shoes and not judge them. It's as true for the other side. I mean, I've read the documents, and I don't like him either, but of Lawrence Thurston, you know, and his actual sincere belief that what he was doing was for the betterment. Okay, it's his vision of it, but you know, you gotta for forgiveness to happen. And I don't know that I've ever consciously went, oh my God, I forgive you. No, but I've come to the realization that we're each at different places in time, and we can't judge that from standing here in our safety zones here. We have to actually put ourselves back. Put us back in 1897 when they're fighting the Treaty of Annexation. Put us in 1843 when Timoteo's traveling through, risking his life. We have to actually put ourselves in those situations with what they were dealing with and understand the dynamics of their day. Yeah, and I don't think it has to be a conscious, like, we all gotta go, we forgive. I think that happens. It's what happens, because I've never consciously thought that I forgave until we're having this conversation right now. I think it's a natural process. And I think that all of that will happen through the conversation of national consciousness. And we start having these discussions.
Of course, we have a model, right? Lili'u Okalani forgave those who committed treason against her, right? So she committed it for the betterment of her people. So we already have that commitment. We have that idea, that notion of forgiveness. For me, it is depending on who I am forgiving and my relationship with that person, and that person, the wrong that person may have done to me or I may have done to that person, and how do we come to that point where we can both forgive each other. For example, you know, my relationship with the United States I'm fully ready to forgive the United States, but they need to come closer to me as well. They refuse so far, the people that I talk about, the United States, to recognize that this is an illegal act. They refuse so far to recognize that part of that is recognizing, acknowledging, and then acting on that illegal act and making that illegal act no longer illegal, meaning they need to remove themselves at some point. Okay? Now, as we get closer, I think, or at some point where we do meet, then of course, then I can extend full forgiveness. I'm ready, and we have historical evidence of that with many other countries, that the forgiveness took place after there was acknowledgement of the wrong, right? So I think we're in that same situation. For myself, I'm ready to forgive, but I need to see that there's some acknowledgement of the wrong and some retribution for that wrong as well. So
I agree that I would think a larger percentage of the Makamole are where you're at. They need to see something first before they can extend forgiveness. Right. And for me, that's one of my issues about it. Is that I don't believe that anyone has to extend anything to me in order for me to give forgiveness. But that's just
right.
We can agree to disagree, but that's just
right.
And that's what I see causes some of the differences in my experiences with other Kanakamo'ole is they look at me like, well, how can you do that? And I can simply say because my heart allows me to.
I'd say it's almost like forgiving UH after the 13th telescope, but then they're gonna still come and build TMT. So I mean,
well,
you can, but it's hard to.
Does not take away anything that they did. I'm not saying that I forgive you and therefore what you did was right. What you did was wrong, which is why I need to forgive you. My forgiveness has to come to you guys because you did wrong. You know, so like, I think for me, what I'm experiencing is a lot of separation that I experience because
so we can probably agree that we all have different maybe levels of what
different ways and
different
different,
right? So no one's wrong about that.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I think he was one time.
No, actually, the guy with the black hat was a hand of
Okay,
moving.
go ahead.
Pu'uhuluhulu, in my experience, is forgiveness. Pu'uhuluhulu, grace untold. If you go to scriptures in King James translation where Christ said, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. Literally, that translates, please, cause them to go away. I can't take it anymore. I mean, it doesn't mean what we understand forgiveness. So, Pu'uhuluhulu, my experience, is forgiveness. And it's grace untold. It's actually very profound. Very profound. And so, I believe that's partly the answer, brother, to where many are actually embracing in one forgiveness by Pu'uhuluhulu because it's enveloping that reality. And when we understand forgiveness as he who represented the most, it would go away from what they do. So taking a stand of love and grace and mercy and compassion, but definitely not wanting anyone to walk on us.
I have a couple thoughts, and this one is a little bit rhetorical, but is Ho'oponopono, is forgiveness one of the pillars of Ho'oponopono?
Basic tenet of Ho'oponopono.
So how we navigate those pillars is unique to every individual story. And my other experience with resentment or non-forgiveness, it's like me drinking the poison hoping you get sick. And it doesn't work well for me in that way, so I choose forgiveness.
Good.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else have?
Hi, I'll just be really short. If we're still talking about forgiveness, I think it's really important that we hear Wahine and Mahu voices because we are in a patriarchal society where we're dealing with domestic violence and things like that. So to get another picture of what forgiveness looks like or doesn't look like, I'd encourage on the Kane to let create space for the Wahine and the Mahu to speak. Mahalo.
Okay, we're gonna put us kind of back to national consciousness. Not that this wasn't a really thought-provoking conversation. Go ahead.
So if we're talking about national consciousness, a lot of people aren't sure what is the point that we lost it. People might say, oh, it's when Cook came, it's when the missionaries came. It's so people aren't really sure where to place the time that we lost our national consciousness. You know, people might say that it's a specific point in time, and people may say that it's a gradual event. Some people place it at Cook's arrival. Some people place it at the missionaries' arrival. You know, the overthrow, the annexation, you know, statehood. But what you have to know is that it was an intentional drive on an outside force's part. So, as many of us know, in 1896, the Hawaiian language and culture was banned from being taught in schools. But actually, the reason that there was a massive decline in our national consciousness was in 1906 and 1907 programs for patriotic exercise in public schools. So it was actually nationally in America, it was kind of congratulated like heavily for being, because at the time there's the Chinese Exclusion Act, there's Japanese all across America, there are Japanese colonies. But those other states were congratulating the territory of Hawaii for how well they were able to Americanize the population here. And you may think the population was only Hawaiian, but then you have to broaden your understanding of national consciousness. Our nation was not only restricted to Hawaiians and missionary howling. You know, we were comprised of Japanese, Portuguese, Korean, you know, as many people
Irish,
as you can think.
Portuguese.
Exactly. As diverse as America. So in 1906 and 7, there were intentional acts. And if you read the pamphlet, the program, every day, you know, they're saluting to the flag, they're marching out as you would see in a military school. They're reciting the national anthem. They're learning American history. So throughout the 20th century, that has just been continuous, and it's gaining traction to the point where our kupuna, as they tell in their stories, don't know their own language, they don't know their own history. So if you are interested in finding out the point at which we lost our consciousness, you can take 1907 as a starting point.
I also think, I mean, because I totally caught ko'o, and it was a gradual, I think it was a gradual process, right? I mean, Armstrong said it in, I think it was 1848. In regards to language, the language of a nation is part of its very being and never was and never will be changed except by a very gradual process. So when you get to 1896 and they ban Hawaiian language in schools, there's only 3 Hawaiian language schools left at that point. They had started this way ahead of time, and then that was the kind of the finalization of it. And you get to the Patriotic Act and all of those kind of stuff. But I also think that national consciousness remains. I think it is in maybe not every single one of us, but a lot of us. And it's just become confused with like state consciousness. Right? When the little league teams go and play baseball wherever, all of Hawaii is watching them. Yeah, the state, but it's not the state. That's just switch state with country. Like that's our country, and they're representing our country. When we get all nuts about Brian Clay winning gold medals in the Olympics, we're looking at it from a state perspective. But really, I think deep down within it's still national consciousness and pride. We've become confused and tricked into thinking that it's state. And so I think a lot of it is there. A lot of it remains in us. It's just been pushed down. It's been face painted, you know, and we can't really tell what it looks like. And we think it's about the state and about being a part of America, when really that's our nation, that's our country. But we've been, through all of these things that he just talked about, we've been tricked into thinking it's something different. And we've been taught to be fearful of what that real feeling would actually feel like and what the ramifications of it would be. But I see it every day, whether we're looking at surfing, whether we're looking at paddling, whether we're looking at the Little League Baseball, whether we're looking at the Olympics, and there's probably thousands of other examples as well. We still have that pride. We don't know anybody on that team, but all of Kona is still watching the Maui boys play Little League Baseball, and that happens every single year. And I think it's in there, but it's about reawakening this consciousness to what it actually is versus what we think it is.
Right. That's a good point. It reminds me of a story when we were in '98, when it was 100 years of the purported annexation of Hawaii. So a group of us we did all these things. We made a video. We did a whole bunch of things. But my grandmother, Keanu and my grandmother, she, for all the years that we've been doing this fight, has always like tisked at us, you know. We're the rebels, and you know, we used to say, you know. Anyway, it wasn't her, you know, she wasn't very proud of us. But in 1998, she invited me, my brother, and my cousin to come over because my nana really she sincerely said to us, tell me why you're doing what you're doing. Explain to me so I can see and feel why you're doing what you're doing. Yeah. So we did. And we spent 2 days. It was actually really good because my nana's a really good cook, so we got to eat really good for 2 days. But at the end of it, my nana says to us, she's like 80 now in 1998. She used to volunteer to make bandages for the military. She worked at Queen's Hospital. She was a nurse, you know, so her whole thing, she acted like she was American. But in 98, she says to us, I was never American. What? You gave us so much crap. But she said, I said, so well, when did you know that you weren't American? And she said, I never was. They just started calling me that. But it's not who I was. And so I think a lot of our kupuna who came through that transition, right, from 98 up through the first 10, 20 years of the territory, I think that it just went in them. It didn't run away. It didn't, you know, they didn't forget it. But they just bought it in science. Part of that is the reason why they didn't pass down the language to us, right? Because this is the new way. This is the new, you have to be able to compete. So we need you to be equal with them, right? I think all of that, that's part of their national consciousness, that they took it inside, yeah? But it never died because they got it to us in different ways, yeah, in a different practice, and a different thing they teach us. And I don't agree that we can't eat turkey on La Ku'uko'a, because I think we can still eat turkey on La Ku'uko'a.
But why do we?
But why would you? Right. On La Ku'uko'a, like I said, since this boy was born, we've done it every year on La Ku'uko'a. My kids don't go to school, we go and walk and retrace the steps of La Ku'uko'a. I make them tell the stories every year, until that is the only holiday he does know now. I mean, my kids know these holidays. So here's an example of 19 years of where your boy will be, you know? And so it's possible for all of us. The only other thing I disagree with what you said is that it's not too late for my generation and the kupuna above us, because it's never too late. I think it lives in all of us, and we just gotta let it out. I think we have to, our generation and the one above me, we need to give permission to this generation to fly, to go, to be okay. Yeah, I think that's part of the national consciousness that we can all do. Anybody else have the discussion? Anybody have?
There's a bunch of great examples out in the world of national consciousness that have really risen up and created a unique, living, thriving society. So I think Hawaii is now, because the world needs to see a different form of national consciousness. That the world really needs the resources, you know, the not resources, but the way our relationship with nature is broken as humans, or we've wandered away in a phase. We called it civilization when we got there.
Right.
Hawaii has a way to walk it back. Come, sit down, look at the mountain, be the rocks. This is the beginning of something for the whole world. And so it's something to live for, it's something to turn on the kikis,
Right.
to turn on your friends and
Right.
you know, our generation.
It's kind of late because I got to go across and help set up for the moon ceremony. But it's not going to be us, me and you, and maybe, or you and Antigua, have a talk on national consciousness and Christianity. And how Christianity has affected our whole way of thinking.
That would
And
be
how we can
another
leave that
really
behind.
interesting conversation. Yeah.
If if I might just add, so while we're in that transition, you know, there are hundreds of issues like TMT, right? So that each of you on your own islands have issues that we need. We need to protect our iwi kupuna, right? We need to protect our lands and waters, and perhaps all of you can use from this model that is started here a way to protect your own aina, to protect your own people. So that's part of your national consciousness too. And in the meantime, help us come up with that economic plan, what that plan looks like going forward. So that's what I would add to that.
I think the only point I want to make in what you said, yes, everything you said, but I want us to be clear. I want it to be clear that the nation that we're conscious of is whole, the nation. And not so the part of the confusion out there is the nation we speak of, right? Because they look from outside and they see us as America. That's the only thing that consciousness has to come from outside, and from in us to out. So we exude and are really clear on the nation of which we speak and stand. That's it. Yeah. Are we at time?
I just have a quick question. For you in instilling what you instilled with your son, what was your
12
drive?
kids. I have 12 kids. It lives large.
Your children.
Large. Yeah.
Children. What was your drive and motivation, and also for parents or my generation, if you want to share, what would be some resources in helping to reawaken our national consciousness?
My drive. I have a personal journey that I was a part of in 1994, and that changed my life substantially. An awareness to who I am, who I was, who they were, and my continuing connection and responsibility to them became really clear to me. Yeah, I heard Billy Kenoy said something once in a at my nephew's party, which like it was so profound that I carry it everywhere I go now. He said that I am the descendant of my ancestors, right? And we all know as Kanaka that means Kuleana, right? As the descendants of our ancestors, we have Kuleana there. But then he said something that I knew but never put into thought that way. He said, but I am the ancestor of my descendants. So now your Kuleana goes that way too, right? It's the Kuleana we have to them to make them proud and walk in their footsteps and with integrity and pride, right? But then what are the footsteps we leave for them that come after us? Are our footsteps large enough? There's one example in the course of learning history. Timoteo Ha'alileo, I know most people know, is my dude. Like, he's my absolute guy. In the course of studying him, after Timoteo and William Richards died, the wives, the widow of Richards and the mother of Timoteo, go to the House of Nobles, them, and make a request. They make a request to have a stipend to malama them for the rest of their life, right? For the service of their husband and son, respectively, right? And so they take it under advisement, the House of Nobles, and then they come back with an answer. And Matayo says, on behalf of the House of Nobles, to Mrs. Richards, we will give you a stipend of $200 a month for the rest of your life for the service for your husband's service to our country. And then he says to Eseka Kipa, the mother of Ha'alileo, who gave his life and died for our country, he said it would mar the memory of Ha'alileo to reduce his service to a monetary figure, right? That gives you a perspective of when we think we're doing enough, use Ha'alileo as your model, right? He has been my guiding light, where if I think I'm giving too much for my country, my people, my lahui, not yet. I never go there yet. So those are some of the models I use. And why I did it, I didn't think about it, it just became important. And that if I didn't teach them these things, it didn't live. And until I make it live, because now their friends know. All the teachers at the schools my kids go to, they know. On these days, my ohana, we're having la nui on that day. So you just do it, and it lives there. And resources. There's not a lot written about Timoteo. there's stuff in the newspaper, lots in the newspaper about Lako'oko'a, how it's celebrated, the building of it. They retell the story for years in the Hawaiian language newspapers. So there's a big access point there. I made a video called Uamakea. You want to go look at it? It's there. You can check that out. Or come talk to me after. I think we might do closing remarks.
I just think that our national consciousness should, like national consciousness and cultural consciousness should be the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just about being able to wave our flag again and only our flag. Right? Our nation has to be grounded in our language, in our culture, in our, what you want to call it, spirituality, religion, our practices. That has to be the foundation of who we are as Kanaka and who we are as a nation. It's not just about getting back into Iolani Palace or taking over the capital or having control. It's what kind of control do we want to have? And so I think your question points to that, right? It's about being immersed in Kanaka-ness, in Hawaiian-ness as much as we can in this time. And so that's the biggest thing. I don't want to just replace, Ige in the capital with someone else who says that we're going to be a Hawaiian kingdom, right? We have to, the consciousness of our people has to change, not just from America to Hawaii, but also from all of our practices, our culture, our language, all of those things. That's what will create the opportunity and the ability for us to take back our country again. It's not gonna. I hear many times, and I think I'm one of the few Hawaiian language guys that talks about independence a lot, and I catch cracks for it sometimes in the Hawaiian language venue. But I also hear, hey, when we get our nation back, we're gonna restore our language, we're gonna we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And I believe it's the exact opposite. When we restore our language, when we restore our culture, when we restore our beliefs and our system and our practices, that will only result in getting our country back. That's the only thing that can come out of that. And so I don't think it's about fixing the political problem and then trying to change all of these other issues. It's get control back of who we are, who we used to be, and that, I believe, I don't know when, but that will result in regaining our country and our independence.
For me, I don't know a lot of what's written about my direct ancestors, 1, 2, or 3 generations, and what they contributed to the Lahui. But for me, it doesn't need to be that way. It can start with me, and it can start with you, and can pass it on. So that's my way of saying we need to empower ourselves, because we know that's the right thing to do. We know our senses tell us, our na'au tells us this is the right thing. And I'm sure my kupuna did their part. I just don't know. Not a lot is written about my kupuna. So if it starts here, great. That's where it begins. And if it starts here, that's where it begins.
I guess in the vein of national consciousness, I guess what I want everybody to know is that, we see Kanaka Uber, Kanaka everything here. And yes, it's run by the majority of Hawaiians, but if we're talking about our nation, it was a multi-ethnic nation. So don't feel that you aren't a part of the movement just because you aren't blooded Hawaiian, And cultural consciousness and national consciousness should be, synonymous, but there is a distinction.
I want to just say thank you to everyone for my really selfish motivation in gathering this. And making this happen.
I started reading Franz Fanon, all those different people about national consciousness.
So, I was going to say, I was speaking to Pu'uhuluhulu just before we came up here. And she's part of the group that maintains the protocol that goes on. And we did have a discussion. What you said was incorrect. That's our nation living there 3 times a day, or actually 4 when they do sunrise, right? 4 times a day, our nation lives, breathes, and practices there. Lives here. It lives with every single one of us in all the actions that we're doing. And wherever your strength is and wherever you can contribute, that's where you contribute. You just jump in and be. That's a nation living. That's thriving, growing, and being. That's all part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not going to sit here all day and just talk. Yeah.